Have you heard about the changes the Canadian federal government wants to make to the Canadian Wheat Board?
No. What is the Canadian Wheat Board?
It is the single desk marketer of Western Canadian wheat, durum and malt barley to the world. It also exports feed barley. All revenue from the sale of these grains minus the costs are returned to farmers.
What changes does the federal government want to make?
The Conservative government wants to remove the Canadian Wheat Board as the single desk marketer of Western Canadian wheat, durum and barley.
Then who will market these grains?
Farmers would sell to private grain companies and they would sell to the world.
Would this be better for farmers?
No, the fundamental purpose of private grain companies is to buy low, sell high, and return the margin to shareholders. The Canadian Wheat Board's mandate is to maximize sale revenue and return all revenue minus the costs to farmers. It is the difference of who is getting the money.
Who wants to make these changes?
The minister responsible for the Canadian Wheat Board, the Honourable Jerry Ritz.
Does he farm?
He has experience as an ostrich farmer.
Ostriches? I've never eaten an ostrich. I've never had an ostrich egg or a feather or anything from an ostrich. Were ostrich farmers successful?
Maybe this anecdote will help. A farmer went to the auction market hoping to sell his ostrich, left the gate open, and came back to find 7 more.
What happened to the ostrich market?
Western Canadian farmers are excellent at growing things and some early ostrich farmers did very well. However, once the breeding market was filled, the prices plummeted and many producers faced a financial loss.
So do you think selling ostriches provides one with great insight into marketing billions of dollars worth of grain on behalf of thousands of prairie grain farmers?
Not likely.
Who put this Ritz in charge?
Prime Minister Harper.
Do the farmers have a say about these changes?
Up until now, by law, farmers have had a say. However, Minister Ritz has said that he will use legislation to remove farmers' right to a say on the future of the Canadian Wheat Board.
Can he do this?
Yes, the Harper government has a majority with 39.6% of the popular vote in the last election.
Is this a banana republic?
No, but it appears to be a slippery slope. The Canadian Wheat Board cannot even comment on its own future because of a gag order put on it by Minister Ritz.
You have got to be kidding me. Does Minister Ritz understand what they do at the Canadian Wheat Board?
He has been the minister responsible for the Wheat Board for about 4 years and he has spent all of about 25 minutes at the board to announce that he intends to remove its single-desk authority.
Is this the expected behavior for the responsible minister? What is Minister Ritz's plan for the Canadian Wheat Board without a single desk?
Minister Ritz expects it will be viable.
Like his ostriches? Can the Wheat Board survive without its single desk authority?
Some believe the myth that a voluntary pooling system is viable. It was tried for wheat in the 1920s, 30s and 40s in Canada and it failed.
So what will happen to the Canadian Wheat Board with the removal of its single desk?
The board has no country or terminal elevators and would be dependent upon its competitors, the private grain companies, to handle its grain. This is like death by 1,000 cuts. Or should I say cold cuts?
Are there single-desk selling systems that function successfully in the world?
Yes, Canpotex markets Canadian potash around the world as a single desk. Canadian governments at both the provincial and federal level recently protected the potash single desk.
But what about in the farm sector?
Australia had a successful single-desk wheat marketing system but it was recently terminated. Now Australian internal farm prices for wheat have decreased relative to world wheat prices.
So Australian wheat farmers lost from this change?
It appears so.
Does the Canadian Wheat Board only market grain?
No, they do logistics and planning for moving the grain to port. They arrange for the sale of the grain shipped by producer cars. They participate in establishing grading standards. They negotiate with railways on behalf of farmers. They collect the levy to fund agricultural research. They finance purchases of grain and they do market development all over the world.
Sounds to me that if there was a Canadian Ostrich Board, Mr. Ritz might still be farming.
Don't dwell on that.
So what is the Canadian Wheat Board worth to Western Canadian farmers?
Leading economists who have investigated the actual sales data have estimated the value of the Canadian Wheat Board to prairie farmers at approximately $500 million annually.
$500 million a year. Will the government compensate farmers for transferring this value to foreign consumers and private grain companies?
There have been no promises yet.
So let me get this straight. The Canadian Wheat Board returns $500 million to Western Canada per year at virtually zero cost to the taxpayer. And you tell me the Harper government wants to remove it.
It appears so.
And without any compensation.
It appears so.
And these same governments were willing to protect the single desk for large companies marketing Canadian potash but are not willing to do it for Western Canadian farmers.
It appears so.
And the farmers who would losing $500 million per year get no say in the matter.
It appears so.
And the responsible minister thinks that killing the Canadian Wheat Board is putting farmers first.
It appears so.
Wouldn't the $500 million per year of lost revenue impact the Western Canadian economy?
One would think so.
And this would also impact federal and provincial farm programs.
One would think so.
So if farmers receive less from the market, they will be more dependent on government-funded farm programs.
One would think so.
And this could increase my taxes?
One would think so.
If I was farming, I would be contacting my lawyer.
I would not rule that out.
I have more questions about the many other things the Canadian Wheat Board does for Western Canadian farmers.
That will have to be the subject of a future video. Goodbye for now.